Alrighty, so it's Friday, which means it's time for the preview in terms of the weekend's action, and it only felt like it was only a couple of days ago where every single team was playing in a midweek game. I mean, that's what happened when the schedule has started to be condensed, and pretty much every team this week will be playing their third game in 7 days coming into the weekend's action. But in terms of the weekend's action, we once again will have 13 games where we're going to have one of them that is going to be kicking off in about 2 hours at the time of this recording. And there's going to be 8 that's going to be happening on Saturday and 4 game that is going to be happening on Sunday. So it's kind of spread out in terms of this weekend's action. We don't have like one specific day where there's like 10 games that happen during the weekend's action of match week number 9. But for this preview, as I did in my preview in terms of the midweek action, I'm going to once again split it into 2 parts, and this preview will be the first 6 games that I'm going to be talking about, including the first one that I'm going to be talking about is the one I mentioned. We'll start in about 2 hours at the time of this recording, and that of course is the Florida Derby between Inter Miami versus Orlando City, or shall we say the Florida Man Derby, because I'm guessing whoever wins this game is pretty much truly the true Florida Man of MLS. But coming into this game, Miami has a record of 2-2-5, while Orlando City have a record of 5-3-1. This game will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff time will not start until 8:25 p.m. local time, which means that whenever a game is 25 minutes after the advertised kickoff time, you know it's going to be on the Fox network, and indeed it is. This game is going to be on FS1, and I also would like to say that weather permit in terms of this game is going to start at that time, because you know I actually haven't checked the weather to see what's the weather condition tonight down in Miami or in Fort Lauderdale, that is. But knowing the fact that it is summertime, and you know this is usually during that time of the year where there's always tends to be lightning delay that happens in a Florida game, I won't be surprised this game could be delay. I mean, you know, on Tuesday when Orlando City play against the Quakes, that game was delayed for twice in the beginning and also in the middle of the game, so don't be surprised this could be the same case, and this game probably will not finish until like somewhere near midnight Eastern. But coming into this game, Inter Miami, obviously they are definitely not in good form coming into this one, and this is really the first time where I think they have really started to suffer a bit of a free fall, because throughout Inter Miami time in MLS, I mean, I know they haven't been doing very well and haven't enjoyed life in MLS in these first 2 years, but this is really the first time where they are really going through a stretch where they're on a losing streak, where they have lost 3 in a row, because previously one of the thing that kind of frustrates Inter Miami fans is that this team always tends to be inconsistent. Well, this team is no longer inconsistent, but in some way it's no longer inconsistent because they are just straight out bad right now. Meanwhile, for Orlando City, they are definitely red hot right now. They, of course, have got to feel very confident coming into this game after they put a 5-0 beat down against the San Jose Earthquakes at home. And in terms of the last 5 head-to-head match for Inter Miami, a lot of red in terms of their last 5 head-to-head or their last 5 match this season. They lost 1-0 to DC United, lost 3-0 against DC United at home, lost 1-0 to the Chicago Fire. They did win 3-2 against FC Cincinnati, but also lost 2-0 to Montreal. And when you look at some of the teams that they face, yeah, those are probably the teams that they should not be losing if they have any hope of potentially making the playoffs. Now for Orlando City, who most likely is going to make the playoffs this season, as I mentioned, they put a 5-0 beat down against the Quakes, while in the previous match they won 3-2 against TFC on the road technically, even though they were playing at home against TFC, and that was just kind of a classic renter versus landlord battle. But then the previous match, they did suffer their first loss of the season against the Red Bulls by losing them 2-1 before winning 1-0 against TFC in another landlord versus renter battle, before DC United did win 1-0 against Orlando City. And obviously Orlando City is going to be heavy favorites coming into this game, but you know, you never know. I mean, I'm pretty sure Inter Miami is looking forward to this game, and you know, with how bad things have gone for Inter Miami right now, you know, if there is one thing that can really put a spark into this team and really maybe turn around this bad fortune that they've been having in the past couple of weeks, getting a win against Orlando City will definitely do that. So let's see if they can maybe pull off an upset. And if you're Orlando City, you gotta be careful not to be too cocky coming into this game and not realize that this is just gonna be a walkover. I mean, I know Inter Miami. Well, the other thing that they've been struggling this season is actually their home form. They have not won a single game at home. In fact, they actually have lost 4 out of the first 5 home games that they've been playing at Drive Pink Park or Drive Pink Stadium, as it is called. And yeah, that's something that they got to figure it out. I mean, you cannot be expected to be potentially a playoff team or even close to maybe compete for the playoffs if you're going to have that kind of record as your home form. But we'll see how this game in the Florida Derby is going to look. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is Sporting KC versus LAFC. Now, this game, I'm shocked that this was not on national television because, anytime when you have Sporting KC who's doing very well, and then anytime when you have LAFC, where it just feels like almost every LAFC game should be national televised because it seems like the media really love them and continue to say that they are always going to consider the best team in the league. But this game is not. This game is only on regional network, and it will be the early game of the Saturday action, as we have this game at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff time will not start until a strange 4:38 p.m. local time kickoff. Sporting KC, of course, they won 3-1 against Colorado at home to improve their record to 6-2-3. While for LAFC, they won 2-0 against FC Dallas at home, and certainly a much-needed win for LAFC because they were definitely going through a rough patch, but now their record is dead even at 3 wins, 3 draw, and 3 apiece. Now, the last 5 matches for both of these teams, for Sporting KC, as I mentioned, they won 3-1 against Colorado. They did lose 2-1 on the road against the Timbers, but then they drew 1-1 against Austin FC, won 3-2 against the Dynamo, and then won 3-1 against the San Jose Earthquakes on the road. For LAFC, as I mentioned, they won 2-0, not against Sporting KC. I don't know why I wrote that. It's actually against FC Dallas. That's kind of an error there. But then after that, they drew 1-1 against the Houston Dynamo, lost 2-1 at home against NYCFC, won 2-1 against Colorado, and then they lost 2-0 against LAFC. And really, for LAFC, they want to prove themselves that they are truly out of this rough patch, and maybe now consider that maybe they are considered to be an MLS Cup contender. Then they win this game. I mean, if they can win this game, they can definitely change the fortune, change kind of some of the minds of doubting LAFC potentially is an MLS Cup contender, because this is one of the things that LAFC have really struggled this season, which is whenever they play against a very good team, they always tends to falter. Now, that being said, it's not going to be easy because they're about to play against an SKC team that has been red hot this season at home. In fact, I don't think they have lost at home so far this season. They actually unbeaten at Children's Mercy Park. So yeah, their home form, and SKC has started to really make their home a fortress again, as it is always the case. And yeah, this is going to be a tough task for LAFC if they are able to get all 3 points. But like I said, if they can carry that momentum that they had in that last game against FC Dallas, and really they can win this game, they can maybe send a message that, hey, we are indeed back, and we are indeed the LAFC team that people expect that we are going to be, which is going to be a team that is going to compete for MLS Cup. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is TFC versus FC Cincinnati. And speaking of a team that at the beginning of the season maybe would consider themselves an MLS Cup contender, well, things have gone south for TFC, and there's no doubt that a lot of TFC fans have been calling Armas heads and want him to be fired. And it's kind of not surprised when their record is now 1-2-6, and also not really surprised when they actually have a worse record than FC Cincinnati, and FC Cincinnati is actually higher than they are. Like, if you would have told me in the beginning of the season that Toronto would be sitting below FC Cincinnati at this part of the season, I would just laugh at you. Like, there's no way TFC, with the amount of money that they spend in their squad and the amount of talent they have in their team, they would be anywhere below FC Cincinnati right now. Now, to be fair, TFC has suffered some injury, and they haven't really had a game where they really have put all the monies that they spent in terms of their squad that they built, and they haven't really put a complete squad. But that being said, no, I don't think that should be a reliable excuse, because I talk about how before, where every team is dealing with injury right now. Every team is going to have times where they have players that unfortunately is not going to be available. And I also even said in the beginning of the season, this just feels like a team where if they do not have their complete squad and not have their strongest squad, this team is going to falter. And right now they're definitely proving me right with the record that they are in right now, after battling with so many injury this season. Now, coming into this game, this one will start at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff time will not start until 7:08 p.m. local time. TFC, of course, they've lost 4 in a row coming into this game, while FC Cincinnati, they won 1-0 against the Chicago Fire in the Wooden Spoon Derby, and they improved their record to 2-1-5. Last 5 match for both of these teams. For TFC, it was a 3-2 loss against Nashville in the last match before losing 3-2 against Orlando City. Then they lost 2-1 against the Columbus Crew, lost 1-0 against Orlando City, and drew 1-1 against NYCFC. For FC Cincinnati, they won 1-0 against the Fire, lost 2-0 against Colorado at home, lost 1-0 at home against New England, won 2-1 on the road against Montreal, and lost 3-2 against FC Cincinnati in that grand opening of TQL Stadium. And what's kind of weird about FC Cincinnati this season is that their home form is definitely not good at all, as they have lost three straight in terms of them opening up their brand new stadium. But when you look at their road form, it's actually not that bad. Like, their road form is at 2-1-3, and sure, it's not good, but at the same time, it's not as bad as what you expect FC Cincinnati is right now in the standings. And they have another chance to put that relatively decent road form to the good in this game against TFC. And after the last game, where they definitely got a deserved all 3 points in the Wooden Spoon Derby, maybe that can give them a little bit of momentum against a team that definitely does not have a lot of momentum and a lot of confidence right now, that is TFC. But yeah, moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Chicago Fire versus the Philadelphia Union. So speaking of the Wooden Spoon Derby, the Chicago Fire, they were in that Wooden Spoon Derby match and they lost that game, which technically, if you lost the Wooden Spoon Derby, you technically won the Wooden Spoon Derby, because the whole point of losing means that you are now at the top of the standing in the Wooden Spoon standing, and that is exactly where Chicago Fire is, as they're currently dead last, not only in the Eastern Conference, but overall in the league right now. Well, the Philadelphia Union, I haven't mentioned this before, but the Union is actually one of the hottest teams right now in the league. Like, ever since their slow start to the season, they have now gone unbeaten in 7 games, and their record is at 5-3-2. Now, this game will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, but the actual kickoff will not start until 7:08 p.m. local time. And by the way, since the Fire is playing at home in this game, I'm really hope ESPN Plus have the Chicago Fire feed in this one. And really, for the rest of the summer, I really hope whenever the Fire play, ESPN will have their broadcast feed, because you know how much I love hearing Arlo White commentating. And after that last game, hearing his voice, it just makes me feel like he should definitely commentate more MLS game. And I know he's only going to be temporary commentating Fire Fed until the beginning of the Premier League season. That's going to happen in August. But again, I just feel like from now on, ESPN Plus clearly needs to show the Fire feed, and need to show what I think now, with Arlo White now being a commentator in MLS, he's now going to be regarded as my favorite commentator in the league right now. But going back to this match, in the last 5 matches for both of these teams, for the Fire, they lost 1-0 against FC Cincinnati. They lost 2-0 against Columbus on the road. Lost 1-0 at home against Montreal. They did win 1-0 against Inter Miami, but that was the only win that they have this season, before losing 1-0 to DC United on the road. For the Union, they did win 1-0 against Columbus, drew 2-2 against Atlanta, won 3-0 against the Timbers, won 1-0 on the road against DC United, and won 1-0 against the Red Bulls on the road. And also, the last time both of these teams met each other, which is earlier this season, the Union were able to win 2-0 against the Chicago Fire. So, yeah, I think the Union is going to be heavy favorites coming into this game, and I think they're going to get all 3 points in this one. And, for the Fire, yeah, it's not easy when you just had a big shot in the last game in the Wooden Spoon Derby to get your first win, and now you have to play against one of the hottest team right now in the East. That is the Philadelphia Union. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be RSL versus the Houston Dynamo. So this game, unfortunately, is going to be on Twitter. In fact, this is another week where we're going to have a doubleheader in terms of games that's going to be on Twitter. This one is the first of the doubleheader before the next game is going to be the Quakes taking on the Galaxy in the Cali Clasico. That's also going to be on Twitter, and we'll talk a little bit more about that game tomorrow in part 2 of the review. But in terms of this game will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff time will not start until 6:08 p.m. local time. RSL, of course, have a 3-2 record after they, of course, lost to Seattle away, and fortunately they had their record now being at 3-2, while the Dynamo have a 3-4 record, and they probably should have won their last game against the Portland Timbers, but they blew a 2-0 lead in that game and only salvaged a 2-2 draw. And as I mentioned, their record is now at 3-4. Last 5 match for both of these teams. For RSL, it was a 2-1 loss against the Sounders. They did win 3-1 against the Whitecaps, but then they had 3 straight draw where they drew 1-1 against Minnesota, drew 2-2 against Dallas, and drew 0-0 against Nashville SC. For the Dynamo, they drew 2-2 against the Timbers, drew 1-1 against LAFC. They lost 3-2 on the road against Sporting KC. They did win 2-1 against Vancouver before losing 3-1 against the Houston Dynamo. So there's one thing that both of these teams have in common. They have only won 1 out of their last 5 games, and that win came in against the Vancouver Whitecaps. And I'm pretty sure if any Whitecaps fans are watching this preview right now, they probably are sobbing the fact that, yeah, we just lost against 2 teams that are not really doing very well so far this season. But yeah, let's see how this game, of course, will turn out. And obviously both of these teams would like to turn around their relatively kind of rough patch that they've been both going through right now, and hope to get a win to maybe get themselves some breathing room in terms of just above the red line, because I think both of these teams are just barely above the red line right now in the Western Conference. But now moving on into the last match of this preview is Nashville versus Montreal. So Nashville SC has a record of 3-5-1, while Montreal has an even record of 3 wins, 3 draw, and 3 losses. This game will start at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff time will not start until 7:38 p.m. local time. Nashville, of course, won 3-2 against TFC at home, while Montreal, they drew 0-0 against DC United at home. Last 5 match between both of these teams, and for Nashville, they actually won 3-2 against TFC in the last match, and that was the resilient game where they went down twice in the game, but it was able to score 2 late goals to win 3-2 in that one. They did suffer their first loss of the season against the Red Bulls on the road, 2-0. Before, it was a 2-2 draw between both of these teams, and then a 1-0 win for Nashville against Austin FC. Before, it was a 0-0 draw between them and RSL on the road. For Montreal, they drew 0-0 against DC United, won 1-0 against the Chicago Fire, lost 2-1 against FC Cincinnati at home, lost 1-0 on the road against Atlanta before winning 2-0 against Inter Miami on the road. And by the way, you know how I mentioned how Nashville SC has had a lot of road games, and you're thinking they're due to have a long road stretch. Well, they are eventually going to do for a long road stretch, but I actually found out that they are going to be playing at home in their next 5 games. And again, this is partially because of the fact that Nashville SC, currently playing at Nissan Stadium and sharing the stadium with the Tennessee Titans. The reason why they play a lot of their home games in the first half of the season is because once the Tennessee Titans season starts in September, that's when they're probably going to have some issue in terms of reverting the football field back to a soccer field. And last season we saw how with that condensed schedule, how much of a nightmare that was, and especially how bad the pitch quality was when they unfortunately had no choice but have to play a lot of their home games at Nissan Stadium while sharing with the Tennessee Titans. And this season they basically are just making sure that, yeah, we're not going to have that situation that we had last season, where we have to play on an awful full pitch for a majority of the home game, and that's why they have a ton of home games to start the season. Now, that being said, they don't have to worry about that heading into next season, because next season they are going to be going into their brand new stadium that they're going to be opening in downtown Nashville. But as for now, you know, I think for Nashville, they're definitely going to have to take advantage of this heavy home stretch. And so far, they've been doing a relatively good job. You know, have a good record of 3-5-1. But that being said, they also have drawn a lot of games this season. And, you know, this is a game where they definitely can get a win against a Montreal side that, you know, after a fast start to the season, they kind of started to be a little bit inconsistent, and also the goal scoring has really started to dry out, because when you look at the last 4 games, they have only scored no more than 1 goal so far this season. And I know some people will say, well, this could be a scoreless draw because Nashville is known for a team that doesn't score a lot of goals. Well, that's actually not true whatsoever, because Nashville this season, they have definitely been more attacking minded and have scored more goals than they had in their expansion year. Now, they would still have times where they do struggle to score goals, and there's time where they did kind of revert back to their expansion year form, where they're just kind of a team that lock it down in the defensive part and be optimistic going forward on the attack, maybe get a goal and win a 1-0 game. But I won't be surprised that this might not be the case, because when you look at the last game, they definitely show some attacking force, and especially able to do something that they haven't done this season, which is, you know, not only show that resilience that they can come back from adversity, but also getting all 3 points while facing all those adversity that they face in the last game. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the preview of these first 6 games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these 6 games? As always, if you let me know in the comments below your prediction in terms of all 6 of these games that kicks off match week number 9 of the weekend's action. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.